In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can change the properties of an attribute field in QGIS, including the field type, the name, and the length of the field. There are a few different ways that you can do this in QGIS, so I'm going to show you two of those ways. So first of all, I'm going to open the attribute table of the data set that I'm interested in. And there are a few ways in QGIS that you can look at the properties associated with an attribute field. One of the easiest ways is just to hover over one of the field names when you're in the attribute table, and that will tell you what the field type and the length of the field is. So in this case, this tree DBH field is an integer field, and it has a field length of 10 characters. So in my data set, there's a field called tree ID ST here on the right. It's a string field and has a length of 10 characters. So I actually want to change the type of the field to an integer and also reduce the size of the field as well, the length. So the way I can do that is I'll go to the processing menu here at the top and then to toolbox. The tool I want is under vector table and it's called Refactor Fields. You can also just search for it up at the top in the search box to access it, but I will double click on that tool. And that brings up all of the different fields in my data set. So the one I'm interested in, again, is this tree ID ST field. So all I need to do to change the type is go into this column here called type, and I'll change it to integer. And then to change the length, I'm just going to double click on the value in the length field, and I'm going to change this to 5 instead. And then while I'm at it, I'm also going to change the field name. I'll double click on this value here under field name, and I'm just going to rename it as tree ID. And once I'm done making the changes, QGIS will automatically create a temporary layer, but you can also just save it as a permanent layer from the get-go as well by clicking on this button and selecting that option. I'm just going to leave it as a temporary layer and click on Run. And then here's my temporary layer here called Refactored. If I open the attribute table, I'll see that my field has been renamed tree ID and that it's now an integer field. So there is one other way that I know of that you can basically do the same thing, except you're creating a new field with all of the changes that you're interested in rather than revising the existing field. And the way you would do that is to go into your field calculator. First, let me open the attribute table. So what I want to do next is change this burrow code field from an integer to a text field. So I'm going to open an editing session by clicking on the pencil button here. Then I'll click on the Open Field Calculator button here. I'll leave the option as Create a New Field. And I'm going to call this burrow code 2. And I'll make the output type text or string. And then all I need to do is click on Fields and Values and find the existing field, borough code, double click on that, and then click OK. And then we have our new field here, borough code 2, it's a string. And if I wanted to, if I didn't need that existing field that I pulled the data from, I could just simply delete that field using the delete field button here. If I can find it. There it is. So those are just two options for changing the properties of an attribute field in QGIS.